Well, it's now time for our political roundup of the week, and I'm delighted to say that we are joined by Portia Berry-Kilby, who is a political commentator with Young Voices. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Morning, Portia. Good to see you face to face.
Finally,
there's lots of
they've let you in.
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
So tell us your first story of the week. Obviously, it's been a big week in terms of politics. What are you focusing on?
So the Queen's speech is somewhat predictable and unexpected. So here we have not the Queen but Prince Charles presenting the agenda for the coming session. I think the main takeaway is people care about the cost of living. You can't legislate out of inflation, but you have these 38 bills. Will it actually cut through to the public as them thinking the Tories are doing what they want? It's unlikely. People don't think it's really addressed the cost of living. There's some vague reference to it, but nothing really in the legislation to help with that.
So it was like a sort of a manifesto light, from what I understand. You know, the fact is it didn't really contain very much at all. The fact is it was all about sort of vagaries of levelling up, making sure that we, you know, treat the United Kingdom as one. But, you know, as you say, for people who are really struggling with the cost of living crisis, this isn't going to do anything.
Well, that's entirely right. And you had Brexit, you had COVID, and now what are the Tories going to be doing? Yeah. And these 38 hodgepodge things they're presenting, what is the unifying strain of thought here? You might have levelling up, but really, what's the point of levelling up in like a 2-year space before the next election? You need long-term infrastructure projects for that. You can't accomplish all of that, and it's all very well and good having a train in a leisure centre, but if you can't afford 6 pints of milk, then what are you going to do?
100%.
There was straight off the back of the Queen's speech, delivered, as you say, by her son Prince Charles, straight away criticism, questions as to why there was nothing that could help people right now. And the government started hinting. They said, no, we are going to do something, and which made people think, actually, could there be an emergency budget? Could we have Rishi coming back and do what he didn't do at the spring statement? Then they said, nah, that's not happening either. But today, Rishi hinting, all these hints. We don't want the hint, we want the government to do something, but yes, a hint that something will be done to help people. What it is, no one knows.
What's your view? I mean, clearly there's infighting between Boris Johnson in number 10, Rishi Sunak in number 11. Clearly, and we were talking about this earlier, do you get the sense that Rishi doesn't want to do anything that would actually make Boris look good, because he still sees himself as a contender for that big job? But equally, Boris knows he's in serious trouble. You know, we are now being taxed at the highest level we've ever been taxed at. 400 tax rises in the last 10 years. I mean, what do you think is going on behind the scenes?
I think that's very fair, and I think it was kind of Boris's moment to calm when Rishi fell from grace a few weeks ago and suddenly wasn't quite so popular.
Portia, who was behind that?
Well, we can always
And
speculate.
who leaked that photo, yes, and all the rest of it, yeah.
Exactly. And there's always going to be this tension between the Treasury and the Prime Minister. That's inevitable. But come 2 years' time, if people think they aren't in a better position financially, whoever is the leader of the Tories is going to take a hit, and the Tory party more broadly. So there has to be some cooperation, because otherwise, forget who's going to be leader. You're just not going to be in power.
And that's right. So the Conservative Party is traditionally a party of low tax. Right now, party of high tax, high regulation, low growth. This isn't a Conservative party, in my humble opinion.
Well, you were criticism of the government, of the Tories, but where's the opposition? Is there an opposition that's really a true contender against the Tory party with Steer Calmer?
Steer Calmer.
Okay, so
that's a much better name.
I've had about 2 hours sleep this morning. All right, let's see if you can say Sir Keir Starmer.
You shouldn't have watched Eurovision with your mother.
I needed to make sure I covered this properly. I did it for the job, okay? Sir Keir Starmer also under fire this week. Also, another leader being investigated over breaking COVID rules via a party.
Yeah, so it's kind of like maybe everyone who's attracted to politics all wants to break the rules.
They're insane.
Exactly. But then you have Keir Starmer, who's been very much coming at Boris for his breach of the rules for the past few weeks. And it's like, well, lo and behold, you're guilty. Most likely guilty. Don't want to cast
we don't know that, because he's taken a really big risk this week.
That's true. And he said that he would resign if found guilty, which is pretty bold.
Very bold. And he seems, that's a confident
It's a very confident man, or it's a guy who's fed up with the job and wants an easy out.
Yeah. But or has he taken advice that he believes he will not be found guilty, therefore it really isn't a punt, because in the letter of the law he may not be guilty, but again it's the spirit.
Or I was reading about this this week, so Tony Blair did the same thing when he was being investigated for cash for honours, cash for questions. Is it cash for honours? He was being investigated, and the police said they could investigate him. He said, well, if it turns out that he is found guilty or broken any kind of parliamentary rules, he would resign. And the Met Police at that time dropped the investigation. So was it, if
I see what you're saying.
Knowing that as Prime Minister that he's risking quitting as a result of it, it caused them to back down. It's unlikely to happen here, but very interesting move.
And it's pretty, I guess that's quite cynical, but fair enough. I think it also is Keir pointing the finger at Boris. It's like, if I'm guilty, I will resign.
Well,
you still
guilty.
Haven't resigned.
They're both guilty.
We will find out when Durham Police finish their investigation.
Let's move finally to Lee Anderson and these comments about food banks, saying, oh, it's ridiculous, everyone can cook for 30p. It was a nuanced debate. I think, I was critical. What was your view?
I think I was critical too. I think that, but at the same time, I think he had a lot of pile-on, somewhat unjustifiably. I think the importance of budget management, food prep is important, and unfortunately not everyone is brought up in that environment where they know that sort of skill. But at the same time, if the Tories want to win at the next election and people are still facing a pinch in their wallets, they have to show a bit more empathy and sympathy and not just say, it's all your fault, you're useless in the kitchen.
Quite right.
Crimea River.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much for coming in, Portia Berry-Kilby. It's been a pleasure to have you in here. In a minute,